Over the past few years, there has not been a single player on the pitch that has been more important to the success of FC Barcelona as Ronald Araújo. But this season, the team is showing a defensive success rate that I don't think anyone expected from him, mostly because that biggest weapon, Araújo, has been injured all year. And so being the second captain, one of the pillars for this side, and one of the most valuable, what's next for Ronald Araújo? What started me off on this concept was something I saw in the media over the past few days, where several different media outlets were reporting several times over a 12-hour period that the center back had organized an entire lunch for the team. So yeah, it's small, but I saw it so much that it made me second guess what's going on here and why they were reporting it so much. Now I want to make it clear this is just speculation, but perhaps Ron or his PR team had a say in leaking this information to the public, because again, it was mentioned such a severe amount of times that seemed a little bit irregular for a lunch, something that they probably do, or I thought they would generally do, every single day together. Because I believe it might have been put out there to remind or reconvince the public, maybe culés, that Ronald Araújo is still a very important part of this side, because the truth is, he hasn't been, at least this season. Now, before we get into that a little bit more, I want to make it clear that I don't generally think this is a bad thing. I'm just saying that it's curious that it even had to be re-emphasized, or the PR team or Araújo believed that they needed to do it, because I remember several times over the past 4 years where Ron has been one of the most critical players to the success of this team, and he has genuinely saved us a lot. But also, after my last video on Inigo Martinez and what we've seen from this defense so far this season, well, I can see why there's questions there, and now I think that's why we have to talk about it today. So I want to start off with a pretty big question here. Is Ronald Araújo a necessity for this team right now? Yes, I genuinely believe he is, if only for depth. Christensen's out, Eric Garcia's also out, next in line is Sergio Dominguez, and I don't know if he's ready just yet, so having a player as talented as Araújo definitely is ready to step in, well, that would be fantastic. But Hansi Flick has already shown that even if Araújo comes back, he might not play. That's because of what we saw the German manager do with Wojtek Szczesny so far this season. The club brought in the Polish keeper almost immediately after Ter Stegen went out to hopefully strengthen that position, and as a lot of us thought, take that #1 spot away from Iñaki Peña. We had seen the Spaniard get minutes last season, and he was less than impressive for the vast majority of it. So I don't think a lot of fans were that excited knowing they would have him between the sticks for the entirety of this season, especially a season that was looking so promising early on. But now, a month or so into the Polish keeper's time at Barcelona, we have yet to see him even sniff the starting 11. It will take time to get used to what Hansi is asking for his keepers, which, looking at Iñaki's game, is coming out of your box a lot, but this does show me is that Hansi is afraid, or he's staying away from disturbing the rhythm that this team has built with the guys in the squad, with Iñaki at the back. That's not to say he's been brilliant or perfect by any means, but he's been good enough. They've won almost every game with him in the net, and so, or every game potentially. Did he play Osasuna? I don't know. That is how good he's been. He's been decent enough that it's not been an issue, so why throw the pole in if it's not necessary? But all this to say is that Flick didn't use the pole when a lot of culés and a lot of people probably expected him to walk right into the lineup because of whatever reason. And now, if when Araújo comes back, apparently at the end of this month, perhaps Flick might also not want to disturb the rhythm of this team, of this incredible backline work, by putting in a player that has no experience or little experience with the way these guys work in that high line, especially when the high line relies so much on timing and collaboration. But there are several differences between center backs and keepers that need to come up when we are comparing the two, like I just did. However, I want to focus on one, and that's that keepers don't need to be rotated, really. During the 22-23 season, when Barcelona finally won the league again under Xavi, Marc-Andre Ter Stegen started every single match in the league, but That's not possible for a center back, especially when they play such a high line, requiring a lot more physically likely than a deeper setup would. So Flick is likely willing to risk Iñaki Peña because keepers doing the job they do don't really risk that much physically playing game in and game out, but doing that with center backs, with the lack of depth that we clearly have there, especially proven depth, well, an addition to that side is basically can't be ignored, like Chesney seems to be for now at least. If anything happens to Cubarsí or Inigo Martinez, Cubarsí already has a hole in his face and he's okay now apparently, thank God, but if anything happens significantly to either one of them, this team will be left stranded right now until one of these big center back pillars that we've had for so long is actually able to come back and slot in. And on top of that, Eric Garcia, Christensen, Araújo, and Inigo have all been pretty injury ridden throughout most of their careers. So the second there are more bodies available that are decently proven, they need to start rotating heavily, or else things can definitely suffer in this side going into the latter stages, the more important stages of the season that are to come. And yeah, I know I've been ignoring Koundé, but that's just because he's been so incredible at right back this entire season. Like, my GOAT, he's my guy. I don't want to remove him from that right back spot. So that's why I'm not talking about him here, even though he can cover these spots if necessary. However, there is another main reason that I really don't think we need to worry about Hansi Flick not wanting to disrupt the rhythm of this team. And that's because he's already done it when it can help him with man management and especially tactical changes and improvements for the side with the introduction of Frankie de Jong. We saw this change with Frankie stand out the most against Bayern and Real Madrid, where Frankie was brought on to either help sustain ball retention and circulation, like against Madrid, or against Bayern, where more control was necessary in a game that was quickly escalating out of the team's hands and was moving up and down the pitch a little bit too quickly. He has a significantly different profile to Casaro, Gavi, and Pedri that provides Hansi Flick with a little bit of a difference maker, a change that can really change the game. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse, but it's learning how to use those guys together that can really allow this team to be adaptable to different game situations, and that's critical. And we've seen that work with Frankie. We've also seen it be less impressive or help out the team a little bit less, but again, he's still coming back from injury. He's not 100%. There's a lot to talk about on Frankie. That could be a whole another video in and of itself, so subscribe so you don't miss that one. But moving forward, it is very beneficial for the side to have those numbers, for Hansi to have those options. But the question is, can Ronald Araújo do the same as well? The answer is yes and no. He is very different than both Inigo and Cubarsí in that he is athletically and physically in, I would argue, the top 1% of all center backs in top flight football. He has proven an ability to go up against just about anyone in the world and save this team with his abilities, with his athleticism. Ron can also be very, very important at maintaining this high line because of his pace and his just strength and pure ability to recover and defend in critical situations, like we've seen him do a lot. Now, we've seen him be very good at those recoveries. We've seen some other things from him, but we know that he can be good in those situations. He has all the tools. He just has to be there all the time. And with the coaching and the setup that Inigo Martinez, Cubarsí, and Hansi Flick now have, well, influencing a player like Ronald Araújo or inserting a player like him into this side, I think can only help a lot right now. However, at least when it comes to the starting 11, I'm not sure how well he's going to mesh and fit into this side, especially with maintaining that high line, because it works so much on collaborating with the guys around you. That's why we saw when Gerard Martin went in against Red Star Belgrade, they actually conceded a goal very early on because the high line wasn't high enough. Gerard Martin was deeper than everybody else, which is something we haven't seen with Balde because he plays much higher up the pitch, likely due to his pace, and he's probably going forward more. And introducing Ronald Araújo brings in a little bit of risk because he hasn't been playing with these guys as long, and he might not be on the same wavelength just yet as they are. But I needed to bring that up because I also think I learned something about Araújo in the very first video I made on him about a year ago, and that's that he watches game tape more than he really does anything else. It apparently got him in trouble with his wife at one point last year or something like that because he was watching too much tape on his opponents, on the way he plays. And so doing that, well, I can imagine he should have a very good understanding of how to occupy those spaces, even if he isn't doing it day in and day out with Inigo and Cubarsí. So that dedication is absolutely something we need to keep in mind, since I think it's easy to discard him as a brutish player considering his immense physicality and notably recent rash decisions. If he has been working hard on the sidelines, perhaps he can pick up his responsibilities rather quickly. After all, it's clear he wants to. All that speculating earlier about what Ron's PR team or potentially he was putting out to the media, or maybe just they're putting it out at all, shows to me if it's true that they pushed it, which I would assume they did because they talked about it so much. I think that's a good thing because it shows that he cares about showing everyone, maybe his teammates, maybe culés, that he is a part of this side and he wants to be. He wants to be the second captain on the pitch, not on the bench. However, that's all nice and dandy, but it's just speculation. Until we see him step onto the pitch, who knows? And that's the biggest problem, because this season could be very telling about the future of Araújo. He is too talented to leave on the bench or to be a third center back for FC Barcelona. He is that good, and I think he's going to want to start game in and game out as much as possible. And he might not do that this season if he isn't able to put that mentality and that understanding with his other teammates together. Now, I think he absolutely can do it, but it's something to keep in mind, because if he doesn't secure a starting spot or secure a very solid rotational spot with Cubarsí and Inigo, which is probably what we need, well, I could see him trying to leave or going elsewhere, because I think he is one of those players that wants to be paramount in a side, and there will be a lot of players out there wanting him. And he probably has a pretty nice price tag on his head, so Laporta looking at that with him on the bench, well, I think I would probably be able to predict where that's going. Now, Inigo is 33 years old, and that's something to keep in mind as well, that he probably only has a year left of solid football, maybe two as a backup. And having a guy who's 26, I believe, 25, 26 in Araújo, right there, ready to take it up, and being that third center back, that's not too bad either. So this is very speculative. We'll see what happens. What do you think? Do you think he's going to be able to put it all together? Do you think even with Inigo Martinez and Cubarsí playing so well together, he'll slot right in? Let me know down below. And just a reminder to everybody, my videos right now are all fundraising for what's going on in Valencia. The floods are crazy. So donate if you can to the charity site I have listed on the side of this video. And if you can't afford to do so, click here on this video to just help me donate the ad revenue of that video. Every view increases the ad revenue, and I'm going to donate that at the end of this month to the Red Cross in Spain to help them out as much as I can. And also, if you have already seen that video, go check out this one about Inigo Martinez. What's been going on with his game has been truly incredible this season. So thank you all for watching. I appreciate all of you. Visca Barça, Visca Catalunya, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Peace.